they're hungry. Absolutely. They know that their ticket to helping their family and creating happiness and wealth is a lot of times baseball. And I'm not saying they work harder than Americans. I'm not saying Americans work harder than Dominicans or Venezuelans or kids from Taiwan. Like, everybody's working hard. It's not just about working hard. That's the prerequisite, right? I came from a small school in Canada. Like, everyone's working hard. It's not about working hard. It's about
Arteaga drives one to center. Miller hustling over. Diving catch by Ian Miller. A great catch.
3, 2, 1. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of the Nine Hole Podcast. This is your host, Ian Miller. I've been extremely fortunate to have leaders in the game of baseball from all walks of life, from all types of levels, on to talk about their experiences, their journeys, their unique road to the show, if you will. Today's guest is no different. It's somebody that I know in the game. It's somebody that I've looked up to, somebody I've tried to emulate, somebody that I still look up to in the game of baseball. Carson Vitale, the Seattle Mariners Major League field coordinator. Carson, what's going on, man? How are you doing?
No, great to see you, man. Appreciate you having me on. Those are some very kind words to intro me. I'm not sure they're all true, but I appreciate it.
Oh man, no, they are all true. It's awesome to have you. It's awesome to see you. So right now, what is it? We're getting into the back end of January.
Yep.
Spring training's kind of approaching. From a player's perspective, around this time, dude, you're in peak physical condition. The swing's great, the body's great. You're looking forward to, if you're not already out in Arizona or Florida, you're preparing for spring training. What is, like your schedule like right now as you're getting ready to ramp up into spring training?
Yeah, it's a good question. I mean, each month in the off season, it feels a little different. Right now, it's really tailored towards getting spring training dialed in, making sure that the schedule is in good shape for the players to thrive and do what they need to do and go out and perform. And really just making sure that everything is in good spot heading into camp. Because once we get there, you know how it is. There's hundreds of people. There's minor league side, major league side, and it's one big mechanical moving machine. And we got to do our best to make sure that it's smooth and coordinated so that the players can go out there and do what they do, which is perform and earn their money and make a team.
For sure. So, when the season ends, the off season hits, that's when players are able to kind of take a break, recover, work a new skill,
Yep.
train a certain, mechanic or a certain whatever, delivery, adjustment, anything. What is it like in the off season for you? Are you able to kind of put your feet up and relax, or is that maybe when the real work starts behind the scenes? Dude, what goes into that? And man, what are you kind of like grinding through in the off season?
Yeah, it's a good question. Right after the season, I mean, the end of the season kind of tells you what the beginning of the offseason is going to look like. Obviously, this past year, we came up short, right? So there was some, emotion tied to how the season ended. So we gave it, a couple weeks of breathing room. And then the process really starts on off-season plans and helping our players get focused to the right things and help support them achieve, what goals they have in the off-season and kind of lead them towards what we think might be beneficial for them. But we try really hard to make it a partnership. It's your career. You're going out there and performing. We have ideas and we have techniques that we think can help, but ultimately we're just here to support. Right. And so that process really starts, late October. If we're not in the postseason, obviously early November, checking in with players, making sure they're in a good spot, feel supported. There's clear goals and clear plans and action steps for them to achieve what they want to achieve going into the next season. And, it's just a kind of a constant, checking in process, a constant feedback loop of trying to make sure that they feel like they have whatever they need to perform. Because, like I said, we are just the net in the background that's here to catch them and help them, get to where they want to get to. We're not playing, the pressure is not on us, so to speak. So we, a lot of our time and effort from our coaches on both the minor league and major league side is geared towards helping the players maximize their offseason, maximize that time so that when they come to spring training, we're not trying to figure out what next to do. That
Gotcha.
they can hit the ground running and go out there and play, because at the spring training there's a lot tied to it.
For sure. 100%, man. There's a lot of stake. You want to make sure that you are, like you said, hitting the ground running, not dilly-dallying, if you will. So I wanted to hit on the partnership kind of, the net that provides support, phrase that you kind of threw in there. I had an experience with you the year that I debuted in the big leagues, right? So 2019, I was fortunate enough to get to the big leagues. This was actually going to be a question or a topic later in the show. I am going off script. This is uncharted territory. So please forgive me wherever this goes. So, dude, I came to you in spring training. I'm like, hey, man, I'm 27 years old. 27 years old. I've done AAA, 2-3 times, whatever it is. I can't get past 260. I can't get out of 260 with, a 330 on base percentage and under, 400 slugging percentage. Like, dude, what's going on here? I need help. Is there any way you can help me? Can you have a serious conversation with me? I'm coming to you as a man, coming off of the Arizona Fall League. I just went to the Arizona Fall League and I was the oldest dude there. You know what I mean? It's like, what do I need to do? I was unsure, right? I came to you and I remember you sitting me down and having a conversation with me with data and, hard hit content, just everything I've never seen before. I've never really been open to the data. I was always old school, man. I don't know, right? I just ran fast, dude. I never truly was able to buy into a swing and try to keep that. And that's, my own fault. But I remember having that conversation with you. You sat me down and you were like blunt with it. You're like, dude, you don't do enough damage in the zone. You don't hit the ball in the barrel enough. You don't hit the ball in the air. And you're offering too much that shit out of the zone. Right. So that's kind of where I was open to JD and Lake, right?
Yep.
The hitting coaches at the time at the big league level, they were there. We threw the blast motion sensor on, started working with some stuff, and you kind of were able to direct traffic and hit on what we talked about. You were able to kind of have that safety net around there and direct, this is what we need. This is, man, are you having those types of conversations right now? Like, I mean, is that a regular occurrence? It saved my career. So
Yep.
I'm just wondering, like, is that part of your day-to-day duties, man? Like having these types of meaningful conversations?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, let me flip the question on you a little bit. Like, why were you scared of data at the time? Like, what was the emotion that like created that feeling?
Dude, I was always afraid of change.
Yeah.
So it was like, man, I didn't understand it. I never understood it. So why would I even like be open to it?
But you were craving it too, though, right? Like you admitted that like you needed to do something different to get over the hump.
Yes.
Right. So that change isn't always in something in like some like scary thing that we have to like create this like negative emotion attachment to. And I think that's what a lot of people feel when they talk about, data in baseball. Data is just, it's just a piece of the puzzle. It's just information. There should be no emotion tied to it. It's just info. And now that's info for coaches to manage. It's info for coaches to deliver to players. And ultimately it's information for players to take and provide an enhanced perspective on who they are, right? Because the data doesn't have feelings. The data doesn't know who you are. It's just what you are doing. And so if we can remove the negative emotional attachment to, data or statistical analysis or advanced metrics or whatever it is, now we can just use it for what it is. It's just information. And how do you take that information and apply it to your game to make you a better player, to get you over the hump, to make you feel less uncomfortable with that, information that you were once scared of. So like, if you can unpack it and like make it less scary and just use it for what it is, it's just numbers on a sheet. And can I take those numbers and use it to my benefit? Well, it kind of seems like you would kind of be stupid not to use that information to your benefit, right?
100%.
If it's going to help you, right? You don't have to be scared of it. It just is what it is. And
100%.
kind of piggybacking off of that, like where you were at in your Seattle Mariners career, we were just developing a lot of the programs and systems that we have in place now that are, very, very easy to manage, and they're very concise and they're streamlined. You were coming in at a point there. I was coming in at a point when I was a young minor league field coordinator where I was still learning these things, right? I was still learning my techniques and my interpersonal communication skills and how to attack these conversations, because they're hard for us too, right? It's not easy telling
Mm,
players like, hey, you're not doing X, Y, and Z good, right? But you do other thing, you do A, B, and C really good. Can we mesh the two and make you more of a complete player? Because that's all we're trying to do.
for
And
sure.
so all of our players now get heavy doses of player plans, and we have a model in place that kind of allows that information to be streamlined to the player more frequently, so that it becomes a less of a sticking point. Through say it often, but like through frequency comes normalcy. Just the more
Mm.
frequent we do it, the more normal it becomes. And I think now we're at a place now where, from the big leagues to A ball, that we're doing very much the same things, was it just delivering truth and helping players get better.
That's awesome. So overall, with this new influx of technology, data, different ways of tracking information, perfecting a swing or a delivery. I mean, how do you feel overall the landscape's been? Have the players been extremely receptive to it? Would you say, almost 100% of the player population, use this data? I'm sure on the coaching side, scouting, all that stuff,
Yeah,
dude, that's big time, right?
for sure. No, not everybody uses it, because not everybody digests information the same way, right? And that's up to coaches and the people that are, the support network around them, to understand the player and how he takes information, and craft it in a way that is going to allow him to digest it and take it and make it actionable. Because all those things you just said, perfect the swing, perfect the pitch, like those are just skills. That's not what allows good players to be good players. It's how they take that information and apply it and get committed to their approach so they can actually execute, right? You can have the perfect swing. You can have the perfect swing. You can have the perfect delivery. It doesn't mean you're going to be a good hitter or a good pitcher, right? So it's taking that information and making it digestible for each player. So some players, they're very good at, accessing numbers and being able to take it and translate it into their game. And some players isn't. And that's okay. That's on the coaching staff and the people around them to understand how that player is going to take the information and present it to him in a way that's going to make it actionable. Because if it's not actionable,
Mm.
it's nothing.
Just noise. Yeah,
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely.
Yeah, it doesn't benefit the situation. If
That's just
anything,
gets in the way. It just clouds the player's head. It's not
100%.
beneficial.
100%. So as I touched on, A, I went off script, so this is uncharted territory. But B, the Nine Hole podcast is about providing insight and information to the next generation of nine hole hitters, however that looks, right? The unconventional. And I wanted to touch on your story, kind of your upbringing in the game, to get to where you're at, right? To highlight, you weren't a first rounder, right? You weren't
No, that's
a
not.
full ride type of dude. Those are the type of stories I like to
Right,
highlight.
sure.
So like Zach Vinci was I think 37th round draft pick, and man, I just grinder. So I wanted to highlight it, man. 3 different schools in college, right? You ended at Creighton.
Yep.
Um, 2 years in pro ball with the Rangers, 38th round draft pick,
Vinci,
2010, dude.
Vinci got me by 1 year.
Okay, okay, 1 year, you said.
No, so Vinci got me by 1 round.
Oh yeah. Just beat you, just beat you. So when you transitioned out of playing, right, and you're getting into coaching, man, you start with you're a hitting coach for 2 years, then you become a manager for 2 years in the Dominican, and then it's you're the international field coordinator for the Dodgers for 2 years, 2 years minor league field coordinator, and now you're entering your 5th year, right, as the major league field coordinator. Man, what through that insanely unique journey of all these right, you're starting out in Canada, right, where you're
Yeah.
right, born and raised,
Yep.
come over here, you're in the Dominican, man, like what throughout this whole unique journey, man, what have you learned?
To be yourself and to do the right thing. And to me, I've developed a pretty binary belief system. My moral North Star is just doing the right thing. And I think everything really fits into that, binary viewpoint, and I learned that along the way. And there's a lot of people that helped me. But I took chances, and people allowed me to take chances.
Mm.
Living in the Dominican Republic for better part of 4 years completely shifted my worldview on what happiness is and what, material
How?
objects mean to me.
Yeah,
How,
like how? Yeah, what was that like, dude?
dude, you know, I was the only American on a staff in Anaheim that I had to adapt, I had to learn, and I had to learn the culture, and I had to learn about the people. And for anybody who's been to the Dominican Republic or been to the DSL, there's not a whole lot, man. Like, these people are happy every day with very few material objects, and I can teach you something. And if you leave that country and those people without a renewed sense of optimism that uh, life is much more than just things and money, and those things are great too, right? But it created a sense of humility that is very much instilled in who I am. And I hope it's reflective in the way I communicate and act to people. But I can point to people and things along the way that completely shifted, how I look at the world and my perspective, and the awareness that it gave me on how different people are and how individualism is so important, and doing the right thing is very black and white for me. And whether that's work ethic or, how you treat people, or um, just how you present yourself, like everything kind of fits into that mold for me. And along the way, you have to get lucky, man. Like, you have to be in the right place at the right time for the right opportunity to come. And thankfully, the Angels took a chance on me, the Dodgers took a chance on me, and ultimately the Mariners took a chance on me. And once you do get that opportunity, it's up to you to make the most of it. And you do that through hard work, and all the cliches. They're all true. They're
Yeah.
cliches for a reason,
That's right, man. That's right. So that experience in the Dominican, my first experience with playing with players from different countries, having teammates that didn't speak English, like that was my first taste of rookie ball when I
Yeah,
got drafted. I went to Pulaski, Virginia, then I went to Everett, Washington, man, and it's like I not surrounded, but I am thrust into this new culture, new locker room, new values, right? Different experiences. These guys didn't grow up the same way I did, in the Northeast, tucked away in a nice house, beautiful upbringing. You know what I mean? So it's
of
like,
course.
I always marveled at the way that, the majority of those athletes went about it, right? And maybe their experiences, how blessed they were to be where they're at. And I'm looking at it and I'm like, dude, this is cool, but this is A ball, right? Or like, this is rookie ball. This might be like insane to them.
Yeah,
I always try to kind of portray it, not just to my audience, but, to, players that I talk to or work with, consult with, whatever it is, speak to, there are always other players elsewhere working. And dude, that's cliche too. Like, yeah, you're working hard, but like, there's probably a kid, flipping rocks. I see kids doing catching drills, catching rocks and stuff, like making the most of what they have. They don't really have anything, saying that they want to be in the big leagues and stuff. Man, are they just like, would you say over there, DSL wise, culture wise, like, man, are they baseball hungry? Like, are they, they're just absolute, they're going to get it.
absolutely. And like, you only know what you know. Your perspective is what your perspective is based on your reality, right? So like, they are happy and they are thriving with very little, but that's their normal. They're getting after it, hitting rocks, and I've seen it. I've been in those neighborhoods, and they're hungry. Absolutely, they know that their ticket to uh, helping their family and creating happiness and wealth, like, is a lot of times baseball. And I'm not saying they work harder than Americans. I'm not saying Americans work harder than Dominicans or Venezuelans or kids from Taiwan. Like, everybody's working hard. It's not just about working hard. That's the prerequisite, right? I came from a small school in Canada. Like, everyone's working hard. It's not about working hard. It's about maximizing your time when you get the opportunity. Like, if you're not working hard, you're just not going to happen for you, right?
Yeah.
The prerequisite is work ethic. And so, like, to go full circle on your question, yes, they're getting after it, but if you have any ambition at all, you should be getting after it, because that's the prerequisite to getting to the next thing, you know?
For
So
sure. So something that you hit on that we were talking about earlier, getting to the big leagues, right? You've been around, you've been in the locker room with, you've coached, you've managed, you've been a hitting coach, all this stuff. You've been around some of the best talent in the game, if not the best, right? You see some
yep.
of the awards some of your guys are winning, like it's some of the best talent in the world at any given time is in your locker room. Like what, obviously talent is the prerequisite that we were talking about to get to the show, the big leagues, the major leagues, man. But how would you say that players are able to separate themselves and stay in the big leagues, man? Is there anything maybe that you can kind of hit on to portray to, the listeners?
Yeah. I mean, listen, getting to the big leagues in and of itself is an amazing feat. I mean, I marvel at the players that get to the big leagues. I can't even tell you how happy and proud I was when you got to the big leagues, man. Like just being able to say that, it's something I could never do, and I'm okay with that, right? But seeing players get to the big leagues is the coolest thing in the world. Seeing them walk through the clubhouse for the first time, there's nothing like it, and I can't imagine what that feels like. I know what it feels like on the coaching side, and it's a lot different because I'm not walking across the white lines and playing at 7:00. That's a completely different beast. But the players that get there, they're all talented, right? That like I said, that's a prerequisite. But what they are able to do on a day in and day out basis, mentally and consistently show up and perform, like that's the recipe. It's the work ethic plus the consistency plus the talent, and then like the most important thing is the ability to stay mentally focused on the right things at the right time, right? That's the separator. Being able to commit to your approach, to flush out the noise and the negativity because it is abundant, and focus on, like I said, the right thing at the right time is the key factor for me. And that's really, really hard to do. And it is an extremely valuable skill set to have. And it's, again, playing the big leagues is so difficult. So I'm just amazed every day at our guys. I really am.
Love it. Talking about some of those things that you just hit on that guys are able to do to stay, separate themselves, perform at a high level over longevity. You mentioned, mindset, mental skills. It's no secret that the Seattle Mariners as a whole are fantastic at what they do with the mental skills side of things, right? I've just talking to Zach about it, man. It's incredible. The first time I've ever, experienced any type of, mental skills training, even anybody talking about it, man, was really kind of like spring training, when, DePoto and McKay kind of took over. It's been awesome. So like, what kind of systems or tools in place do you guys have, that helps a player mental skills wise, mental training? Like how would a younger player, a younger athlete, whether he's a minor leaguer or college player, high school, middle school, like what can they start doing that your players do, that you guys do, incorporate it maybe into their routine? Because when I've talked to some of these younger, listeners, man, followers, whatever it is, subscribers,
Yep.
it's like, dude, they've never meditated. They've never meditated. The first time I've ever heard about it was when Mitch Haniger was talking about it in spring training. Mitch is back with the Mariners. Fired me up to see it. I
So
heard
good.
him talking about it years ago. You know what I mean? Years ago, and that was like the last time. I mean, it was incredible. Like, what can these guys do at a young age? To start kind of incorporating it into their routine.
Yeah. I think at the very least, they can start thinking about it, right? They can at least acknowledge the importance of it, right? Everybody's process is going to be a little different, right? They contextualize things different. Their perspective is different. Their awareness is different. Their upbringing, like there's so many external factors that create like quote unquote mental skills. And yes, I think we do a fantastic job with our mental skills group. We have designated mental skills coaches that travel throughout their affiliates. We have a major league mental skills coach who does a great job. But at the end of the day, if you're not coaching through mental skills in the mental game, and you're only coaching the physical aspects of what makes players good players, then you're missing so much of what creates a whole player, and so much of what creates a competitor, and so much of what creates, like a winning type performer, right? Because you've seen guys in the big leagues who have lesser skill sets but outperform, right? Like what allows them to do that? It's their competitive drive. It's their unwavering self-belief and self-confidence. And you have to practice that. And everybody's going to practice a little bit different. Meditation's great, right? Obviously, being mindful and just viewing the world through gratefulness and optimism. Like there's so many ways that you can actually practice these skills without having to, really go in a crazy direction that you don't really know, right? Like they're very simple skills, taking your shoes off and walking the outfield and just thinking about your thoughts and who you are and creating awareness around yourself.
Getting grounded.
Sitting in a sauna and like just being there with your thoughts. And practicing it in batting practice.
I love it.
There's so many ways you can actually achieve this without having to take it too far.
So for me, I spent a lot of time with Adam, right? You all right over there?
Yeah. Sorry.
I got you talking for a little while, man. I'll do a better job of taking over the reins, dude. So I spent a lot of time with Adam Bernero.
Yes.
I remember vividly in Tacoma, AAA. The year that I was able to, get to the big leagues. I was going through mental tiffs, if you will, here and there. I've had complete seasons thrown away because I would harp on, my goodness, some dude got called up instead of me. I'm hitting 280. How come I'm not getting a chance, dude? And I've had entire seasons ruined at the halfway point, because it's like, dude, then you start getting into the pity party. You're not grateful. You're not where your feet are at. You know what I mean? You start thinking, you start playing GM, dude.
Right, of course.
It blows my mind, man. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think the mental skills aspect of it is absolutely huge. I feel like I was definitely going there with a story, and I totally just lost it, dude.
And what you're talking about is just perspective, right? Like your perspective gets flawed. You start worrying about the wrong things at the wrong time. You start thinking about things that are out of your control. You start worrying about things that don't matter instead of just thinking about things that will get you better, which you know, right? Which is getting committed to your approach, which is getting to the field every day, preparing and working on your craft, and however you derive confidence, that should be your focus. And when our perspective gets shifted and we start worrying about the wrong things, you just start taking away from the things that are actually going to get you to the place you want to get to, which is, if you want to get to the big leagues and you start, playing GM or start worrying about, why this guy gets called up and not me. Well, that's time being spent on things that you should be doing, which is preparing for the starting pitcher that night, or looking at their high leverage relievers, or looking at the tough left on left matchup that you're gonna get in the eighth. Like, what's in your control, right? You do, but then your perspective just gets shifted, gets flawed. And that happens because you're a human being and you're flawed, right? And we need to acknowledge that. Like, we are human, therefore we're flawed. So we're going to drift away from these things. We're going to drift away from what we know is right because we're just human beings. And the faster you can figure out that you're drifting, and the more people around you that can help you, tell you, hey, you're focusing on the wrong things, your perspective is not where it needs to be, man, now you can start like really, speeding through your growth process. But every minute you start focusing on the wrong things, you're going 1 minute backwards.
That makes a ton of sense. I knew where I was going with that Adam story, man. I'm struggling in AAA, Tacoma. I would show up and I would work on mindfulness. We're walking around the outfield, getting grounded. With my shoes off, I'm listening to different sights and sounds and stuff, and we were doing visualization stuff. me walking up to the plate, visualizing certain things. I had my bat. It's amazing. It's amazing. I try to preach the benefits. Obviously, there's a whole
Oh my
bunch of
God,
different
of
ways,
course.
but it's like, man, I'm fully bought in, to the mental skills side of things, and kind of how it's taught in the game of baseball. So you guys have a pretty unique, you guys are data driven, right? Everybody's data driven.
Can I pause you for a second?
Yeah,
Just kind of pulling that thread a little bit.
please.
Because if you really reflect on your career,
No worries, dude. What kind of dogs you got?
Two Boston Terriers.
I love it. I love it.
Carson, you can edit this out, right?
Absolutely.
Okay.
No, it's no
So,
worries, man.
um, so I was going to say, if you really reflect on your career from 2018, 2019, getting to the big leagues, did you make this crazy skill change to where you got this much better at baseball? I'm probably going to tell you no, right?
Mm-mm.
You started focusing on things that that would make you better. They weren't massive skill changes. There's probably some in there, right? Your swing did get better, right? Of
Yeah.
course, right? But
Yeah.
did it get that much better to make you a big leaguer at that point? Or was it all the other factors in play? Did your perspective get clear? Did you gain more confidence through that? Did your preparation get better? Did you gain more confidence through that? Dude, that confidence is an absolute drug. And when you're in the box with confidence, I will take that player every day. When you walk up to the box without confidence, that's going to be a challenging at bat, right? And
For
so where
sure.
does that confidence comes from? It damn sure isn't thinking about the wrong things, and it damn sure isn't being grateful, and it damn sure isn't thinking about things out of your control, right? So the question is, what got you to the big leagues? What was the shift?
I mean, focusing on the stuff that I could control, the stuff that mattered, and, you know, kind of being open to everything else, right? Like I said, I was extremely, I had my guard up with a new way of thinking, teaching, right? If I didn't fully buy into something, it's hard for me to
Of course.
give it a chance, right? So it was, man, I guess it was a combination of things, the mental side, and the analytical side. Do you have any type of recommendations, if anybody is like a reader like I am, and any type of mental skills books or baseball books that could be beneficial, to a baseball player reading it?
Yeah, I mean, I think reading is as important as eating right. There are so many good books out there that can help stimulate thought, right? I think that's what good books do. And good podcasts, good
Yeah,
any good content. It helps. It doesn't tell you what to think. It helps you think better, think clearer, and ask better questions to yourself, so you can create better perspective and take those bits and pieces and put it into your life and your game. Um,
love it.
I people joke around with me about it, but I love stoicism. It's a part of who I am.
I
So
love it too.
anything by Ryan Holiday, I would highly recommend. Anything by Robert Greene is really good. Marcus Aurelius and Meditations, changed, absolutely shifted my perspective on life.
Same here.
Anything by Bob Rotella is amazing. There's uh, so many good books out there. And it doesn't necessarily need to be a baseball book or a mental skills book to help shift your perspective in a clear way to help you be a better baseball player or a better person.
Okay.
They're all kind of the same thing,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, 100%. So you touched on, the Marcus Aurelius, the Stoicism type mindset. I absolutely love it. I got a chance to read. I started getting into that stuff during the lockdown of like 2021, right when everything kind of started, dude. Could you hit on the Stoicism a little bit? Maybe the mindset, the philosophy of that, and maybe like what it's done for you.
Yeah. I mean, beyond it's a really good question.
I know I'm ambushing you. It's like
No, no,
Ben,
no.
you're not letting the external affect the internal, right? So
Yeah,
you're accepting everything that's happening to you. You're not trying to worry, is this shit good? Is this shit bad? You're just kind of
yeah,
like going with the flow, right? That's the way that I interpret it, dude. I feel like that probably when I was able to do that subconsciously and not even know that, just kind of let the reins go a little bit on, dude, I'm not getting called up. Dude, I'm hitting 260 as opposed to 285. Like, I kind of let the reins go a little bit. After that happening, I read about it. I learned about stoicism, and I'm like, oh shit, maybe I was doing this subconsciously, and that's kind of where I felt the most free. It's like, dude, I'm not stressing about stuff outside of my control, right?
Yeah. And like the two things I go back to often with stoicism is momentum. I'm going to butcher it because it's in Latin, but memento mori and amori fati. And again, I pronounced that wrong, but both those things mean it's beyond just acceptance, and it's like being grateful for what's happening, right?
Mm,
And in those two phrases is the love of fate and the love of death, really, and the acceptance of both of those things. And when you can accept that today might be your last day on earth, I might as well make the best of it and
for
take
sure.
advantage of everything that's going on today. It grounds you, it humbles you, and it makes that day more than just worthwhile, but like a gift. And when you are acceptance of what's happening in terms of fate, it goes beyond just being accepting of what's happening, but loving your situation, right? I didn't get called up. I love it. You can kind of trick yourself a little bit, but there's a reason for it. I can get better from this. Whatever the
The
situation.
Jocko Good. I'm thinking
Good.
about Jocko Good.
There's so many examples of stoicism in modern day media and personalities right now. Like, it's timeless because there's so much truth to it. And if you can take some of their concepts, it's really just about control of your thoughts, control of your mind, eliminating the distractions and the noise, and focusing on the things that you can actually control and grasp, right? When you start doing those things and stop giving emotion to other people that are trying to be negative, when you stop giving yourself to others that are haters or doubters, and like you're allowing those things to happen, like you are in control of your thoughts and mind, you become free. One of the best books that you can ever read is A Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, and it will absolutely shift the way you view hardship and obstacles.
I read
And
that.
it's amazing.
It's
I
amazing.
mean, if that's not like profound, then you're looking at it through the wrong lens. And it absolutely shifted, my perspective on what doing the right thing means.
100%, man. So, you guys have a, wide, diverse range of, talent in your locker room. Man, you have an absolute, just from all walks of life, right? You have an absolute, superstar in Julio Rodriguez, who, from a young age, it might have looked like he was destined to be one of the greatest of all time, right? And then you have a dude I played against, Justin Topa, who was over at LIU, right? A Northeast grinder. And for whatever reason, he was out of the game. He was, bought into the analytics and showing spin rate and stuff. I think he was pretty active on social media, and getting his numbers and his video out there. And then, man, he's fucking closing games in the
Nasty.
show for you guys. And now he's like, he's a dominant figure out of the bullpen. It's like, dude, it's an insane amount of, diverse stories, culture, talent, man. Like, what is a major league locker room like, in your experience, man? Like, in the clubhouse for you guys, is it laid back? Is there music playing? Is it uptight? Are you guys, like, as it gets closer to the game, is it silent? Are you guys lock it in? Like, what is it with, a wide range of, people from all over?
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a flow to it, right? Like, and every clubhouse is going to be different based on the people that are in there, right? Culture is not defined by words; it's defined by the people that are in the environment and how they treat each other and how they communicate. Like, that's culture. In our clubhouse, it's it's light, it's loose. Guys are free to express and be themselves, and as game time approaches, things get more serious, right? Things get more individualized, and players start focusing on what they need to achieve with their routines and their mental state before they have to go out in there and perform against 45,000 fans each night. That's really hard, and but everyone is going to do it a little different. And I think that's one of our core staples. One of our standards is to be yourself, and how you do that. Just we ask you to kind of just fit within our boundaries, our standards, and as long as that happens, um, you can have a beard and tattoos and act
Love it.
uh, like I do, which is typically pretty loose,
Business
but
casual.
this is who I am, and
Love
I'm
that,
free
man.
to be myself, and our players are free to be themselves. Again, just kind of meet the standards, and the standards are pretty black and white. Be on time and treat people with respect, and go out there and compete. Like,
I get it.
it's
I
pretty
get it.
simple.
Be a pro. Be a
Be a
pro,
pro.
man. So what is
Yes.
just a couple more questions here before we let you go, man. What is, kind of piggybacking off of what you just said, man. Be a pro, do the right things, treat people with respect, show up on time, man. What is a day in the show like? For you guys, what does a 7:05 game day look like? I try to talk about the importance of routines.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Some in my audience, man, they haven't failed at the collegiate level even yet, right? They don't know about routines, what works for them and shit. Different types of ways of going about stuff. And preparing a certain way, man. Well, like, what is a regular day like for you?
So everybody's gonna do a little different, but we have some 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 things in place that are kind of non-negotiables, right? Like early work on the field is from 1:30 to 2:30, let's say, on a first 7 o'clock game. BP is going to be from 3 to 4. Our starting pitcher meeting is going to be right after BP, right? So those are the kind of things like you have to kind of, all right, these are my blocks for the day, and then within those blocks now there's freedom. There's freedom for when you eat, for when you lift, for when you get in the cages, for when you want to do your throwing program, when you want to take a nap, do mindfulness, read, play some video games, decompress. Like everybody's going to have a different routine based on where they're at in their career. The older guys, the veterans, it's locked down. They know exactly what they're doing from the time they get there at 1 o'clock or whatever it is to game time. Some of the younger guys, they're learning their, what is going to help them, perform that night. And that's what, we're here for. We all need help. Everybody needs help. But
100%.
day in the life is going to look a little different if we're in Oakland or in Houston or in Seattle, right? It's going to be a little different based on the bus times. And, one guy's when we get in the night before from a road trip, like there's some variables, but like, as long as we understand what the big blocks are for the day, there's a lot of freedom within that to, get the individual stuff done that each player needs to do to perform that night, because that's what it's all about.
Love it, man. I love it. And the last question I got for you here. So obviously this is this is the 9 hole podcast where I say, man, I made it to the big leagues in the 9 hole, right? I was fortunate. I was extremely lucky, but this is where I talk to the next generation of 9 hole hitters like myself, whether you're underdeveloped or you're just not very good yet, whatever it is, man. Like maybe you're overlooked, underdog, whatever it is, man. When you think about the 9 hole, a 9 hole hitter, like what kind of characteristics come to mind? What do you think about, when you think about a 9 hole hitter?
They're selfless, simple. I mean,
Mm.
that's easy. They are going to do the right thing for the people around them. They're going to grind. They're going to pick up, their teammates. They're going to do the right thing when it's not easy. And they're going to come off the bench when, there's a leverage situation and, it's a tough at bat. They're going to bunt when they need to. They're going to just do what they're asked. And I say do what they're asked. Like that's not a negative thing. That's just what the team needs, and the
What the
team,
situation
the
requires.
situation requires. And, I can look up and down our lineup and there's some 9 hole in all of our guys. And I think that's what makes us great is that, we have a bunch of guys who are selfless and, really do care for each other and are willing to do what's needed for the team. And I think that's what makes great teams, right? Is just that humility and selflessness and competitiveness that every 9 hole hitter I've ever been around has.
Fires me up, man. Might be the best answer I've had on here yet, man. Carson, thank you so much for your time, man. Appreciate you, spending 45 minutes with me and my audience, kind of talking about your journey, talking about, your mindset, how you go about, teaching your, young men and grown men, how to play baseball the right way, and man, sharing on some experiences that we've had, man. I really do appreciate your time. Carson Vitale, the Mariners Major League Field Coordinator. Carson, thank you.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure, man. Real
Yes,
pleasure.
sir. I'll see you guys soon, man. Good luck this year, and I look forward to seeing another awesome run.
Absolutely.